Hi, my dear Astro family. Today, I wanted to make a video of the aspect of the week, which I think it's going to be Uranus sextile Jupiter. So if you would like to learn more about the weekly astrology energies, then I recommend checking out on my website this Patreonship thing, where you can sign up, and then I will be sending out privately each week the weekly forecast, and I'm going to be deep diving into some of the asteroids as well as some of the major aspects which is happening within the week. So the week is very exciting. I think this is one of the most exciting aspects of 2022, and that's Jupiter sextile Uranus. Now, the reason why it's very exciting is because Jupiter and Uranus has got a 14-year synodic cycle. Now, let's just cover what synodic cycle is actually. So each planet will be meeting at a certain rate by conjunction. So Jupiter and Uranus have met or met approximately in 2010 June, the very last time. And then, of course, Jupiter being a little bit faster, so every few years, they are going to be making a major aspect. So the next sextile, or the first sextile after the conjunction, which they had was in 2012, and then, of course, there is going to be a square going on, which was in 2014. And then we're going to have again a trine going on and an opposition. And then we're going to have again a square coming into the picture. Now, the last square they had was in 2021, January 17th. And on the 18th of February, there is the very last sextile between them two. Now, the reason why it's very important is because the squares are typically about crisis in the consciousness or crisis in action type of energy within that cycle, whatever started in 2010. Squares are about making some type of adjustments, and the sextiles are more about getting ahead in life. It's a maturation process because this is going to be a upper-handed sextile, which means that this is the last one before there's going to be another conjunction happening between them two, which is in 2024. So kind of like imagine the, let's say the low-handed, let's call it low-handed sextiles as a playful energy where we are meant to be kind of, it's a youthful energy, okay? It's very much about playfulness, kind of engaging with others in a funny way. But the upper-handed sextile, which is kind of like a closing sextile, it's closing that 360-degree circle. It's more about maturation, but also somehow balancing out our adulthood with our inner child's desire. So let's just recap on what we've learned because it's important. So we've got a conjunction in 2010 June, which, by the way, happened on 0 degree of Aries. So whenever the world axis is the 0 degree and the 0 degree of Aries and Libra, whenever they get activated by a huge planetary alignment, such as Jupiter and Uranus conjunction, it's going to change the world in the next 14 years, because that's their synodic cycle. And typically those changes are happening around conjunctions or squares. So, for instance, we're going to have a world axis activation going on in 2026, because there is going to be a Saturn and Neptune conjunction happening on 0 degree also, which is going to be reactivating the 2010 cycle. So that will be very interesting to look out what's going to be, you know, to kind of compare what was going on in 2010 and how 2026 will be playing out. When we get closer to that time, definitely I will be giving you some ideas. So the conjunction is always about new cosmic start. The sextile is something to do which is a Venusian energy, and it invites us to engage with others. But because it's an upper-handed one, we're going to have to do that in a mature way. The upper-handed sextile is pretty much about the development of the spirit in a playful way. So I think this aspect is one of the most important one of the year. Unfortunately, we're only going to be getting one of them. So we have to somehow try to make the best of it while there is an opportunity ahead of us, because Jupiter is all about opportunity. So on one hand, this is definitely inviting us to kind of grab the opportunities, the openings for expansion, and kind of like not sitting on our laurels. Uranus is kind of like prompting us to make a calculative decision because it's in the sign of Taurus, but at the same time, kind of like not taking up so much of the time about thinking, because there could be a little bit of a problem here. Now, but in order for us to kind of understand what these planetary alignment means, I wanted to actually recap a little bit on what Jupiter and what Uranus actually indicates. And one of the best way we can do that is the symbol on card. So as you can see on the symbol on card on the screen, you have got this clown who is trying to jump over a cliff. So what this card is pretty much indicating here, that there has been a problem going on for a while, and now we've got the opportunity to move on and leave the past behind. Typically, this cliff is indicating a critical point in our life, and the fact that we have got the courage, or we have got maybe a benefactor, sextile, in our life to jump this over, to overcome the barrier, it's great, and we're going to have to grab the opportunity, or you get stuck somehow in the past. But this is an aspect, Jupiter being part of it, which is about confidence, putting your faith into something, knowing that, you know what, I can jump this cliff over. I don't need to be scared. So Uranus wants to make you a little bit bold here. Yes, sextiles are also aspects which are talking about making some type of efforts, but it kind of guarantees for us that it's going to be bringing some type of great results for us. So by the way, this is a 3 weeks transit. It's happening on the 18th of February, depending on where you are. In Turkey, it is 3 p.m. 12 minutes. So you can actually make, you can check your own time zone. Now, Jupiter is a karmic planet. It's a social karmic planet, which is at the moment in rulership. Now, we've already received a little bit of a peek of what we should be expecting when it comes to Jupiter in Pisces, because in between May to July 2021, he already had been in the sign, and then, of course, at the end of December, it went into Pisces, and it will remain there till 11th of May. Now, Jupiter wants to expand our experiences, both in a positive and a negative way. The reason why, because yes, Jupiter is the giver of joy and the giver of confidence, but we can become overconfident with certain type of things. So Jupiter can actually emphasize chaos, fears, and illusions we might be creating for ourselves. It can actually expand the desire to escape from problems because it's in the sign of Pisces. So therefore, the spiritual message of Jupiter in Pisces is that to look inside more, to kind of do an inner work, to somehow lift up your spirit as high as possible so you can roar, basically. It's about wanting to have an ideal image, an ideal world, but how we can actually do something about it. Because Uranus in Taurus is about something radical changes in a tangible way. So, of course, the inner world actually can indicate something to do with danger as well, because we tend to be too busy with working whatever is going on within us, and then the life is just moving on, and then we don't even notice it. So there is the tendency to kind of go with the flow energy. Now think about the symbol of Pisces, right? We've got one fish looking downwards, the other one is looking upwards, and then they do this kind of little circle. So they tend to kind of end up going with the flow and not taking enough action. So whatever we do, there is always a meaning of that. And the meaning is that we are all part of a cosmic womb, okay? And we do need to realize that, you know what, I suffer, others suffer as well. So there is that cosmic womb, which is kind of telling you about interconnectedness. And Jupiter wants us to explore that a little bit. It is telling you that in the spiritual realm, in heaven, there is no material world. It is all about the spirits traveling around and getting ready for new beginnings. So somehow Jupiter wants you to look at that. It wants you to be more empathic. It wants you to focus on interconnectedness. So how can we make the life more bearable for everyone? Could be one of the messages with this Jupiter-Uranus sextile this time around. Now, Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus since 2018. Well, there was a 5-month period there, and then it shifted back into Aries, and then finally in 2019, March, 6th of March, it went into Taurus, and it will remain there till 2025 July. Now, what Uranus does, that it excites things. Sometimes it becomes a little bit threatening as well. It brings sudden changes. And Taurus is the natural resources of the earth, our physical needs. Typically, it indicates money-related topics such as banks and stock market, insurance, investment, or it could also show some type of innovation of our relationship to food, the real resources, our values. Now, values are inner and outer values as well. So what we possess, but also what we have got within ourselves. So that's something to do with the talent. And also, it is about agricultural too. So I think Uranus wants us not to be too rational, too logical, because Taurus can become that. And so overall, the possible manifestation of these energies are very much about some great technological advancements, which we're going to be seeing in the next 2 years about, for instance, when it comes to traveling, or when it comes to agricultural matters, probably how we how we preserve food is going to be changing. Also, this could really talk about the changes of human rights, especially when it comes to freedom. Communities can be coming together to make a better future. This is the aspect of movement and courage. So no wonder why Jupiter and after 2010, more and more people were kind of inclined to go on streets and to go on a strike, basically. So it is very much about the aspect of movement. It's very possible that all of a sudden our opinion changes about something. So we will see how the COVID situation is going, but there could be an element of change of opinions, for instance, in the government, right? Or the way how we should be healing this. But also it could indicate that learning about occult fields to kind of get in touch with the higher mind is an opportunity here. Maybe people want to become more accepting towards astrology, or there is a rigid way of thinking about certain things in our life which can be lifted with this transit. But to be frank, it's not a shock for me that there is this rumor going on that Facebook wants to ban astrology and tarot card readers and so forth. We will see how that plays out, because that is very Jupiter and Uranus related. Now, looking back at a little bit of the history. So we had a conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus in 1997. And that was, and it happened in the sign of Aquarius. Of course, that was the start of that we can call it as the age of internet, right? So that's when it really started. So it will be interesting to see that 2024 Jupiter and Uranus conjunction, how it's going to be playing out with the internet. But it could really talk about increasing the independence and the freedom to explore new ideas and places. Kind of like it can give us an urge, to explore something, especially if it's touching one of your personal planets, or even the angles by this pair. So as I mentioned, it's on 11 degree. So you might want to be looking at, okay, what was going on, for instance, in my life in 1997, okay, in the sign of Aquarius. Do I have a planet there? And then maybe this is somehow, this conjunction is, this sextile, sorry, is going to bring some of the history back. Why it could bring back? Because Saturn is still in the sign of Aquarius, right, this time around. So there is a repetition going on between 1997 and 2022. So it's definitely going to be talking about, on one hand, how the internet is going to be changing within seconds. For instance, in the United States, the last synodic return of this Jupiter and Uranus in 2010 in Aries saw a very significant upheaval in politics. And that was kind of like the rise of the Tea Party. And there was a little bit of, clash, let's call it this way, between the conservative and the liberal perspectives. So probably we can see a little bit of a clash going on in the US between, left and right wing and so forth. Because this is very much about, this Jupiter and Uranus is very much about the freedom of expression, but on a highest level. So the fact that Saturn, which is the secondary ruler of Aquarius, and Uranus would be the modern ruler of Aquarius, are still somehow interconnected, it could really talk about, how we want to be restricting people when it comes to using internet. So maybe with all the nodal shifts in Taurus and Scorpio, you are not going to be able to look up porn, for instance, online. But this could bring great technical advancements when it comes to space travel, and that's not a shock. Even in small countries, they started gathering people who want to be kind of traveling to the space and so forth, and we've got all these type of virtual homes going on. So definitely we can see that this is something which is starting, or kind of gonna start blooming in a sense. When these two planets are actually melting together, or melt their energies, there is always a need to express something new, something kind of like a new civilization is ready to be born. It's kind of like, imagine, on top of my head, there was also Uranus and Jupiter conjunction when they first walked the moon. So expect something like that. Maybe we are going to be able to, I don't know, walk Saturn, right? Just a very silly example, okay? Don't take it for granted. So, but also Jupiter representing the law, it could actually indicate a time when there is going to be kind of like a force when it comes to changing certain type of legislations, or just changes in the status quo altogether. Typically, this would be an indication of changes in foreign policies, such as, okay, who can travel, who cannot travel. But also, I feel like this could also indicate something to do with who can get married, who cannot get married. The reason why I wanted to mention that is because Uranus is always about a rebellious energy. It wants to go against the grain. Jupiter sextile Uranus is, the danger with that is that it makes people think that what we have isn't good enough. So it always wants a little bit more. And it kind of tells people that, you know what, you can do whatever you want. You shouldn't do just to show yourself, to show that you are alive. You want to be actually showing that you are right also. And it can go quite far, to be frank. So what I'm really seeing with this aspect is that the atmosphere can change for the better if you want to make certain type of changes about your life. I think it invites you to kind of forget about what was going on, especially in the last 1 year, since 2021 January, and grab the opportunities ahead of you. It wants you to be excited about something, expect unexpected opportunities, and you're gonna have to grab them, or they're gonna kind of walk away or walk past. This is actually a very great time to book a travel, for instance, or even it's very good for relocation. So it's very possible that relocation is going to be a huge topic in the next 2 years. Something around how to obtain visa, how long can you stay in a country, and so forth. I think the most, oh, and also, you know, another thing which came to my mind is something to do with all these scientific researches, because kind of like the progression is Uranus and scientific, and Jupiter represents the knowledge. Probably another huge topic is going to be something to do with energy saving stuff. So because Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, which represents the earth, so how to actually save more energy, how to have more environment friendly type of stuff. And because Uranus always wants to break the rules, and Jupiter is kind of pushing our limits and encouraging us, so therefore it's going to be kind of like out of the box type of methods to kind of use this energy saving stuff, which is probably going to cost a fortune to start with. But you know, it could also talk about something to do with privacy policies. So maybe all the phone companies will be coming up with some privacy restrictions. I can also imagine something like that. But the most affected area, I think it's going to be social media, something which kind of started last year. They're going to kind of find a solution for that, but expect that social media channels will be definitely revolutionized, which takes me to the idea, because Jupiter and Uranus are a millionaires combo, it's kind of like a lottery winning aspect. It is going to bring us opportunity to invest something. So as soon as you see some type of changes around social media matters, maybe a new social media platform is going to be coming around in 2024, then it's an opportunity for you to kind of invest into that, because that could be running quite nicely when it comes to, you know, money coming up. So, well, guys, this is my interpretation over Jupiter and Uranus. I think Jupiter wants you to dream big. It wants you to see a bigger picture than it is in front of you. And Uranus wants you to dare to raise your frequency, to dare moving ahead in life. And then if there is a pivotal change to make, especially in the next 3 weeks, then you should do so. One more thing which I forgot to mention, actually. Jupiter also has got a conjunction to Nessus. Nessus is on 13 degree of Pisces, and Jupiter is only 11 degree of Pisces. Now, Nessus is actually the asteroid of abuser. Now, it could be about nuclear powered abuse. It could talk about sexual rapes. It could talk about plenty of abuse, the power, abusing the power as well. But what I wanted to explain here is that Jupiter magnifies everything. So when it's conjuncting Nessus, it's kind of like an inclination to become an abuser or to be abused on a magnified level. Or if you have got, for instance, Jupiter conjuncting the press, which is the asteroid of depression, then you have got the tendency even more to be depressed. Or if you have got a conjunction to Jupiter from Dejanira, then you might have got a tendency to become a victim even more. So, but Nessus, we've got Nessus, which is about abuse. So whether, because we can look at the abuse as with three different ways, okay? Sometimes it talks about we treat others similarly, how our abuser treated us, or you end up being surrounded with people who treat them the way the abuser did, or you treat yourself as the abuser treated you. Typically, if you have got Nessus very close by to the angles or one of the personal planets, then you're going to have to ask yourself the question, in what ways were you abused? And the sign probably tells you, maybe Scorpio was sexually abused, maybe Taurus was financially abused, maybe Capricorn, they abused you at work and there was some power struggles going on. So, by the way, if you want to be looking at where Nessus is in your chart, its astrological number is 7066. So you can actually look that up. So Nessus is a Cantor planet. It has got a 122-year orbital period. It crosses the orbits of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And Nessus can represent skin color and racial type of matters. So unfortunately, we can expect very similar things about maybe Black Lives Matter can be coming up with this quite significantly. Or you know, there was that story where the police abused their power and then killed some people, and it was kind of like an inappropriate type of behavior. And inappropriate behavior belongs to Nessus. Typically, Nessus is psychological, physical, or sexual abuse. Nessus can actually indicate rape, molestation, slavery, greed, sexual obsessions or addictions, kind of like the abuse of power as well, especially if it's somehow connecting to Pluto. Now, in 2018 April, Nessus actually had a Nessus return in the US natal chart, which was happening on 9 degrees of Pisces. And Nessus is actually transiting this point in almost the entire 2022 also. Plus Nessus is conjuncting Ceres in the US chart, which is very much about agricultural type of matters. Rage and frustration and depression also belongs to Ceres, and anything to do with food industry. So it might be about some type of political changes of how we abuse the earth, how we abuse food, or some very significant sexual scandal could be coming onto the horizon, really. So especially because the progressed ascendant, well, I have to look that up because I don't remember, but I think in the US charts currently it's in the sign of Virgo. Exactly, it's in the sign of Virgo, and Nessus will be opposing the progressed midheaven in 2026. So it's going to be highlighting some power abuse, and probably it's going to be something to do with the identity of the country as well. It's going to be changing significantly. Anyway, I'm going to have to make a lot more research and I have to look at the chart, but it just came to my mind that I remember looking at it and it was very prominent. So, guys, this is my take on Jupiter and Uranus sextiles. I hope this video helps you to have a better understanding, and if it does, please ensure that you subscribe, press like, and even share your comments with us. What do you think this Uranus and Jupiter aspect means for the world? Thank you, everyone, and see you soon. Bye-bye.